As always, feel free to fuck off. So, here's this kid.
I always thought this temple was
Look on the bottom
weird
left.
because the biggest cymatic pattern ever made is a temple. This is Borobudur.
He loves to promote globe theory horse shit. Now, keep in mind, the flat earth is also misdirection. Our masters spoon fed all the morons out there the flat earth long before they fed them, the globe theory. Then there was a reemergence of the flat earth because that's how our masters function. I'm tired tonight, and again, I already told you can fuck off if you want. I'm probably not gonna tell you things you're not supposed to know because I've been looking for people who can answer the test question, think for themselves, and put in some fucking time. Because I've been at this for 10 years, and it hasn't gone well because most people are not fucking thinking for themselves. So this kid, primarily speaking, what is it, Bass or Base Forge? Usually he'll whine about something aspects of it hold water, but what people refer to these days is just as good as any fucking blanket paradigm you could think of. Whether we're talking about, what became of numerology or astronomy or astrology, which it's the same fucking thing. Same applies to alchemy and chemistry. It's the same fucking thing, but it branched off into two divisions, like the flat earth and the globe theory, because we were being polarized and we were being manipulated. And yes, I realize there's deeper roots to each one of these things, and you can wax poetic about semantics, and you could also talk at me about the paradigms that you've been trained to repeat. Well aware of that. Again, I've been at just this aspect of my life for 10 years, trying to get through to people so that I know that they can reason things out and think on their own, but most people can't. But if they could, I was leaving answers online, things you would never fucking find elsewhere because people are not thinking for themselves. And despite echoing that numerous times over, I didn't get through to all these thick-headed fucking fill in the blanks because they're not fucking thinking for themselves. So, here's a kid that waxes poetic and whines about cymatics. You probably aren't picking up what I'm getting at. He also talks about the globe theory. Now, when you think about the globe theory, and I've said this numerous fucking times, it's a disconnected outline. You were spoon-fed planets, which essentially translates to wandering stars, because you and I don't live on a fucking planet. Earth is an element. It's not a fucking space planet, because those don't exist, and people would figure that out if they used the brain between their ears, which they aren't. Again, I know I'm bitching about that. You'd have to look into it and use your brain to appreciate some of the things that come out of my mouth, especially these days, since I'm not thinking for you. This is also when a lot of the slow thinkers out there would say, the burden of proof is on you. I demand that you think for me, which means they're incapable and or unwilling. I used to cite references when I started out doing this shit. Most people don't even say thank you. Most people don't consider the time and energy you put into things. Most people won't look that shit up, especially these days, unless they have a fucking hyperlink. And or it's summarized in a 60-second video. You and I are surrounded by below average people. That's why things are bad. Because they are the fucking problem and they don't realize it. So the analogy I usually use, you got all these bullshit planets off in fucking Photoshop doing fuck all. It's just as good as smashing a clock on the floor, yeah? And having our masters tell us this is what reflects reality. This is the universe. And yet, all of this shit that you're being told to repeat, right? It's got to be significant for some reason. Because it influences us, does it not? That's what the ancients taught us. And yet our masters want you to buy into bullshit, Photoshop horseshit, having to do with the heliocentric model. Keep in mind, there's grains of lesser magic in there, but I've never seen anybody touch on it. They don't understand. They don't understand, and I'm not going to spell it out for you, because the information will be corrupted. I'm not going to do it. If I can find people that can think for themselves, yeah, I'll show you these things. I'll teach you things. I'll give you stepping stones. But most people don't put in the fucking time, and no one's answered the test questions. So back to point. This guy's going to whine about cymatics and how things are harmonizing and how there's a pattern to the fucking universe. What he probably assumes or believes and or has been paid off to call the world. Now, if he's shopping around the heliocentric model and bullshit planets and all this crap and my really shitty broken clock analogy, which should resonate with you if you think about it. Most people aren't. Won't. I know I keep saying it. And some people will whine at me. You berate, they don't say berate, but you berate people more in your videos than you do teaching, or more than you teach us. I'm like, it's because you and I are surrounded by fucking idiots. Yeah. I need you to think about that first, because if you don't pull your head out of your ass, none of this matters. Anything I tell you isn't going to fucking matter. Because you're probably just sitting on your palms anyway, digesting this as entertainment, waiting for something sensational to pop up in here, so you can dash out the fucking door and repeat it to pretend that you're smarter than you truly are. No one wants to hear that, but that's how this shit works, by and large. So, if you're rattling off planets and all this other crap, and it's a disconnected model, which I already said, and I'm trying to steep some tea. It's not harmonious. It doesn't sing to itself. It's off in fucking bullshit Photoshop doing nothing. It's not connected. Hence, disconnected. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Which flies in the face and contradicts everything Bass or Base Forge whines about in terms of cymatics. So which is it? And if he's so stuck on talking about cymatics, why would he mislead you and tell you to buy into the heliocentric globe theory? And or is he... A lot of times they'll say, if you're not invested, you're not involved, which means if he isn't diligent enough to figure that much out, he shouldn't be on the internet talking about any of this to begin with. Because it's a disservice to you and I and anybody else who is privy to this and or dumb enough to repeat it. So bits and pieces of what he's going to rattle off, yes, they may have grains of quote-unquote what people call truth and don't understand. Maybe. But it's also coming with a corrupted package. In other words, it's propaganda. The moment you saw Google Earth, that's a tool of propaganda, mind you. It's not a tool of information. Most people haven't figured that out. The moment you saw that incorporated into this message, you should have realized right away you can't trust this guy as far as you can fucking throw him. Same applies to anybody. A lot of times, this is what I'll say. If you've ever seen the History Channel, and this is an example, anybody on the fucking History Channel that you've ever seen pop up on there, you can't trust them. If you see them pop up somewhere else and they're being interviewed, blah, 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 you can't fucking trust them. They're shopping around propaganda. They work for our masters. They have collected a check if they've been on the History Channel, Ancient Aliens, or any of that other shit. Most people haven't figured that out, especially the kids on TikTok. They have not fucking figured that out. I still see David Hatcher Childress, Linda Moulton Howe, what's another one? Now I can't think of his name. Either way, Stephen Greer and the like. You know, again, space propaganda, horseshit. Controlled opposition, typically speaking, based on all the names I just rattled off. Richard C. Hoagland is the other one I was thinking of, who will urge you to chase structures on the moon. And all of those names I just rattled off, that's the camp that Base Forge or Bass Forge wants you to buy into. And I want you to take that to heart. Now remember, I also said the flat earth is fucking horseshit as well. It's an incomplete model. There's so much missing from it. It's a fucking joke because our masters are laughing at us. That's why they sold us that package first. But all the kids chasing the fucking flat earth that will, their blanket statement, it's flat. They don't understand where we are, what this is, how it works. Because not one of them has fucking looked into it. What do I mean by that? I'm not talking about rattling off what all the other idiots are rattling off. I'm not talking about hitting repost and clicking like and sharing the fucking propaganda mill. I'm talking about reasoning things out on your own. People aren't doing that because people cannot fucking think for themselves these days. This is what I keep echoing, and this is why I've been looking for people who can. But apparently, most of you can't. Which should really fucking unnerve anybody who can. And or hears this message and thinks about it just a little bit. But as always, what the fuck do I know?